Welcome to the third day of the challenge. Today we will set up our project and take a look at basic routing in Angular. So let's talk about some more theory before we really get started and get our hands dirty. So in multi-page applications, when a user clicks a link, an entire web page is downloaded from the web server, as we already know. And the current page is unloaded and it's replaced with a recently downloaded page. Page navigation mechanism is different in single page applications though. When you click the counter link in the default application, the counter component is loaded to a specific portion of the page and the rest of the page remains unchanged. The unchanged part is the app component, the default main component of our application. The app component includes a container for other components. The container is called a router outlet. When a user clicks a link, the Angular framework loads the corresponding component into this router outlet. But how does Angular know which component to load to the router outlet? We can set path or addresses to Angular components. Paths are different from selectors. Developers can create links to the components which have path assigned to them. The Angular framework loads the component into the router outlet when a user clicks a link. A pair of path and component is called route. Angular routes are different from ASP.NET MVC routes. MVC routes are addressed to controller actions, whereas Angular routes are usually component paths. When a user clicks an action link in an MVC application, a request is sent to the server and a controller action is called. However, Angular routes are component addresses. Whenever a user clicks an action link in an Angular application, the Angular framework finds a component based on its address, then loads the component into the router outlet without sending a request to the server or without reloading the page. Alright, so now let's hop over, let's create our flight booking portal project and let's discover routing, clean up the project and really get starting developing on it. See you in the next video. Alright, welcome to this video. Now let's get started. Let's create our course project, which is also again using the Angular and ASP.NET Core template, and we call that project flights. So let's go ahead and create a new project here. Simply search for Angular, or you will have it here on the left side if you have just created a project already. So ASP.NET Core with Angular, right? But again, I will just show it. Search for Angular. You can see this right here. Don't use the standalone TypeScript project. We use ASP.NET Core so that we automatically have a backend solution. So let's go ahead, click on next, call it flights and hit next. Select .NET 6, no authentication and click on create. So here we have our project now. In the last video we talked about the router outlet, so let's go ahead and check where we can find it. Open the client app folder on the right side and open the source folder. Open the app folder and open the app component HTML here. As you can see, here we got the router outlet. As you can see, here we got the router outlet tag. So as soon as we will click a link in our navigation bar, the component will get rendered into the router outlet. So when we click on the counter page, for example, on the counter link, then the counter component will get rendered inside of that tag here, right? So this is what we have talked about in the last video inside of the presentation. Now let's open up the app.module.typescript. Let's scroll a little bit down. I already showed it earlier in a video, but here we got all our paths defined. So here we see the path, the URL, and the matching component, right? Now let's take a look at the nav menu component. So on the right side, open the nav menu folder and open the nav menu component.html. Here you can see, when we scroll a little bit down, we have fetch data, counter, and home. You can see that router link attribute right here, right? And you can also see the assigned path. So /counter /fetch data, and this one here is home, right? So there is no real path, it's just a slash that's default for home. So once you click on that A tag, he will search for a route path, right? And he will see now, okay, it was a route for counter, so I will go ahead and render the counter component and its template inside of that router outlet, inside of the router outlet. All right. So now we have to clean our project. Let's first of all get it starting, hit Ctrl F5 to start the application, download all the dependencies, etc. so that all of these importing errors are gone. And afterwards we will start cleaning up the project so that we really start without any unnecessary code files and HTML template files. So here we have our application. We can click on flights, right? We can find that also inside of the nav menu component HTML. And we got home, counter, and fetch data. So we don't need that weather forecast, and also we don't need the counter. So let's get rid of it. So let's remove all components, but nav menu and app, we will keep them. So home component right here, let's remove it. And then we got fetch data right here. Let's also remove it. And also the counter component right here. Now you can see that we got some errors in our app module for sure, because we simply removed all of the content. So let's get rid of these 3 components here, save it, and it's going through the entire file. So let's simply just remove those components wherever they are used. So here we got that path, etc. Please now go ahead and remove counter and fetch data, but keep the default one right here. We will adjust it just in a second. So let's save it. Now pay attention. We have that path here, which is, well, trying to access the home component, which we have just deleted. So this is the default path, or the path or the content that we want to see as soon as we start our application. Now we don't have the home component anymore, but we want to create a new component, our, let's call it search flights component, right? Because we're creating a flight booking portal. So searching flights will be very important. So we need to replace the home component here with our own component, which we will have to create. And we will do that in the next video, because that's something you will have to use very often when you develop projects in Angular. Welcome to this video. We will now create an Angular component because, as I already said, we need to replace that home component, which we have deleted, with our custom component, which we will now create. So since we are developing a flight booking portal, we will now create a component for searching flights. So we will call it search flights. First of all, we will use a comment to generate that component. We can only do that, or this comment is bound to Angular because it's an Angular comment. We can only use that inside of an Angular project. So right now, our flights project right here is not an Angular project, right? It's a main folder, which also contains an Angular project and an ASP.NET Core project. So right click on Client App here on the Client App folder and click on Open in Terminal. Now you can see that we are inside that Client App folder, and that one is our Angular project. Now go ahead and run the following command. Call ng for Angular, g for generate, c for component. We call that component search minus flights, and we need to configure that component and attach it to our app module. So use the module flag app, because that's our default app module. We will see just after we have created the component what this does. So for now, this is what happens. Angular generate a component with the name search flights and attach it to our app module. Now let's get ahead and hit enter. And as you can see, we have created several documents right here. We have that search flights component HTML, right? This is the template. We have that flights or search flights component.ts, which is a TypeScript file for the component. And we have CSS, which is for styling. And also you can see that update in our app module. So let's go ahead there first. You can see here search flights components, right? So this is what the module flag did. It already imported everything here, just the component that we have created, and also attached it into the declarations so that we can make use of it right here. So let's go ahead and use search flights component here. Now, this is the main route now. So as soon as we start the application, we will see the search flights component. Let's save it right here and take a look. On the right side, you can now see a folder called search flights. When you open that folder up, you can see all the files that just got created. Let's open up the TypeScript file. Here you can see the component, right? Automatically got created a selector. We got the template and some additional styling. Here we already have a lifecycle hook, which is called ng-on-init. We will get to that later. And we also have that template search flight works. So let's go ahead and save it right here. Hit Ctrl F5 to start the application. Great, now our application has started and you can see search flight works. Let's just get rid of the nav menu that we have right here. We just removed all of the components, but the nav menu still contains some HTML. Move to the nav menu component HTML. Here you can see all the information. Let's remove all of our links. We can keep the home one, that's totally fine. So remove all of the list items, but keep the home one, which I have just marked right here, because that one has the link to router link, only a slash. And that one, let's save it, is completely matching our app module configuration right here. So path like this is exactly like this. right? There is no difference. So our default page will be our search flights component. Now launch the application again. And now you can see that we have removed the nav links that we have right here, right? The item. So now we have only home. We can click on flights and it's always directing us to exactly the same page because that's the only one we have left right now. So we have successfully set up our course project and cleaned it so that we are ready to start. Now I will see you in the next video tomorrow.